as divine timing always is, we're joined at this moment with a woman who inspired a number of us and continues to inspire a number of us. And Barbara, I'd like to present to you a co-creative convergence of conscious evolutionaries that have been on this path for a number of years, and some of us only starting a couple of days ago to travel here. Of the 33 of us that are here, there are 10 mentors, there are 12 additional guides and aces in the room. There are people who have been studying and on their path of spirituality for many, many years. We're all blessed to be here this evening to honor you across the way in the dome this evening. And our hearts are with you and have been with you the whole weekend while we have been here creating more energy that we take out into the world. We'd love to have you chat with us for a moment. Neil Donald Walsh and Steve Farrell, who is the head of Humanities team, providing this evening's program. We'd love to hear from any of you if you'd like to share with us. Would you like Barbara to come up front?
Yes, if anyone is...
Her microphone is there, okay?
Oh my goodness. Oh, hello everybody. I'm a little nearsighted, so I can get a little bit closer. Here, before I can say hello. Oh my goodness. Hello there, there's one I don't know. I only know them on the radio. Oh my gracious, hello there. Hello everybody. A new one? Because you're non-local. How do I know all the non-local people? Here's what I really know. Oh my goodness. What a blessing. What a blessing. Hello there. The one I know from Australia. Oh, God. Oh. Some few people are local and non-local. Sure, yeah. Oh. Oh, Bob, thank you so much for, oh my goodness, and thank you for taking all this and bringing all of this together. Oh, whew. And I want to ask my dear friend Neil Donald Walsh to stand, because he and I have just also been together in a way that I think if we want to make this into a genuine convergence.
Let's do it, Barbara.
Why don't I ask Neil to come up and hold my hand here? And then we'll all be together. And Steve Farrell from the Global Oneness and Humanities team.
Barbara, could you go
at
back
me?
to the podium so we
go
can
back to
be
pick
back
up
here.
sound? And
The
Thank
sound
you.
is here,
The
Barbara.
microphone's
Oh,
here,
okay.
okay?
She has
For
that
her
right there.
microphone for the...
Thank you.
And Steve, if you'd come up too, I just feel that since this is a co-creators convergence, and I've arrived from this remarkable humanities team, a whole global oneness team going out into the world carrying the same message of oneness and wholeness and what he calls the God job. That's my new phrase for the whole thing, is the God job. That we're here together, and Neil, who has been my brother and friend and guide in so many of this and to millions of people, I think what I'd just like to do is pause for a moment and imagine the communion of pioneering souls on planet Earth right now, everywhere. That this room is an expression of. And Neil and I were reminiscing, you know, because I'm by far the oldest, but Neil is quite young. Nonetheless, he's been around for quite a while. But those of us who've been here a long while, to think of the path we've been on in this whole generation. I really think starting from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, 2012, and now 2013. This apparently is what it has taken in the timing of a planetary birthing process for the planet to generate enough human beings in whose spirit, soul, and expression is the awareness of convergence and co-creation. And to take a moment to know that this is one gathering among hundreds of thousands, and that the crisis on Earth that we have been given, which in China they're calling it the ecological civilization, the crisis of creating a new culture, a whole new civilization, has finally come to a crested point. And this is my evolutionary intuition, that it took this much time to generate enough pioneering souls filled with this spirit of the divine in them to gain enough experience of co-creation, of skills, of love, of relationship, to be ready when the crisis has matured to the point where what they told us in China, the current estimate, mainly Irvin Laszlo, that we have 5 years to shift toward the cultural story of the new story of humanity that will lead to a new civilization that is driven by a climate change global crisis that cannot be resolved by any existing system on Earth. So it is the absolute perfect moment for convergence of co-creators. The planetary timing of this event could be considered a symbol of the exact thing that is required to respond to the crisis by the expression of a new culture. And when I was with the humanities team at the Global Oneness Day, and I know I can't remember what kind of award this is or who's giving it.
I'll share that.
So I don't want to.
That's my job. That's not your
Okay,
job.
so I don't know how to say anything about it, but I don't know whether I should say this before or after Steve. In fact, I'm going to turn this over to Steve for a moment, but no, let me just finish this thought. That for all of us who have been together in the Agents of Conscious Evolution, in the planetary birth experience, in the whole book that Neil wrote where he imagined the December 22nd event, and what he imagined, I have really, really said to him deeply, is about to happen. Because we announced the birth on December 22nd, and everybody who was part of it announced it. But the actual convening of a planetary experience, Neil wrote in the book. And I have suggested to anybody who would like to see the next step in our birthing process to read Mother of Invention, because the number of cell phones that now exist on planet Earth, I have been told, exceed the number of people on Earth. because these must be the old ones as well as the new one, not the old people, but the old cell phones. But the old cell phones, as well as the new ones and the smartphones and all the others, is that the universe has been producing a nervous system. And the best that we could do at the very beginning is to, for those who already were aware, to announce a birth, which I think was like announcing the birth of a Christ child, is within the manger. And it was a new being that was born. In the story of the Christ child, a new being was born. And the announcement was very important. So the announcement of the planetary birth for all those who were able to receive the announcement started a process in motion which I believe affects that noosphere. That nervous system is responsive to non-local experience. And it's very hard to feel non-local experience when it doesn't show up tangibly immediately, unless you're able to be conscious of the reality of the global brain, mind, heart, as you would be conscious of your own consciousness. It's an extended consciousness, but it's there. And I think what's happening is that we're building towards enough infusion of the global brain, mind, heart with this consciousness that there is a shift point in the global brain itself that makes it telepathic to all. And the only way that we could respond to an ecological crisis with an ecological civilization is if that is true. That infusion of consciousness at some point goes critical. And that we don't know exactly that point, but every one of us, as we move into our global oneness and into our convergence and into the new name I've given to our generation is Generation 1.
Love it.
Because Generation 1, all of us, all ages, on Earth, right now, are the first generation to ever face this together. And none of us have been through it before. It doesn't matter whether we're 8 or 80. So Generation 1, I heard somebody say, we're leaving here at this convergence radically, there's something new, it's true. And being radically new as a member of Generation 1 means we're facing both a radically new crisis and a radically new emergence of our conscious awareness of who we are. And Neil gave a talk this morning which was so brilliant, which I didn't fully get before, about what happened to our vision of God and how it became so destructive as it was held by different groups. And I won't try to go into it again, but I would just like to ask my friend Neil, in the spirit of a convergence of co-creators, at this particular moment of history, to be celebrating this group, Neil, before we do anything else, because I feel your love and your ability to communicate the presence of God is a vital part of everything that everyone is doing now.
No pressure. Thank you, sweetie. It's so wonderful to be here with you. I see that Barbara's work in the world has produced wonderful, wonderful fruits of your labor, Barbara, of your labor, actually, the birthing.
The birthing labor.
I must acknowledge that a person is in the room who is very significant in my life because he introduced me to my wife. And his name is Peter. He's sitting over there. Peter introduced me to my wife, and
Call him the oneness man.
Which Peter is that?
that's Peter.
Oh, that'd be
He he came with her on his arm after he toured to my house, but that was the last time. His name is Peter Melton, and since I met my wife, I've been Melton ever since. Boom, boom. But anyway, I was surprised to see Peter in the room and delighted to see you. This is an important moment, as I'm sure you all know. I don't need to make a big talk about that, because you're all aware of what's true around that. But I just wanted to say one thing that it struck me to say here. As you're all gathered in this wonderful group inspired by Barbara's work and Barbara's vision, Birth 2012, did you ever think? It's all over the,
By choice, not chance.
all over the
That's
planet
right.
now.
Beautiful.
But I find myself moved just to say one thing to you, and that is that it's one thing to be here in a group like this, and it's very sweet and very lovely and very self-energizing and very reigniting and re-motivating and all of that. But the real work begins, of course, when you go home, and that is almost a solitary kind of work. That when we leave here, we're not necessarily surrounded by people who are in agreement with us, people who are supportive of us, people who are holding the same view as we hold, and yet that's where the real mission and the real ministry of your life begins. So we use this time together to refuel and to reignite and to refocus your attention and your strength. But know that when you go home, it's going to be what you do there. The days have gone by when a single person is going to stand in front of a stadium or a crowd or whatever and make a single speech and shift the reality. Those kinds of events sometimes occur, but how it's really going to happen is one-on-one, you and you and you. When you go home and you invite people into your home, when you decide to have the conversation of the century in your own home, when you have the bravery and the courage, and I want to say the nerve, to invite people into your house and say, let's talk. Let's talk about this experience we're all collectively creating on the earth. Let's ask some fundamental questions. And I place these questions before you now to give you perhaps some small articulation that you may use as you talk to people who are near you. This is not easy work, by the way. I understand that when you go back to your communities and you start inviting people into your house, you put a little ad in the paper, you know, Birth 2012 or conversation group or whatever you want to call it, and you invite people in to talk, because that's how it's going to happen. It's going to happen by conversations. It's not going to happen by all of us going home and individually, yes, bring him a chair. He shouldn't have to sit here and listen to this whole thing. Thank you. But it's not going to happen by all of us just going home, you know, by ourselves and sitting in our rooms with our candles and oming ourselves into bliss. I mean, that's wonderful. I'm not making light of it, but it has to go beyond that. It has to go to the place where we have the courage to stand up in our communities, to invite people to put a little ad in the paper, put little flyers up, little posters, whatever it takes, and say, come on in, let's talk about this, because it's conversation with others that will begin to shift the global reality. And in that conversation, we might ask a single question. I invite you to ask this question. Around the water cooler, if you're still employed someplace, in your home, when you invite people in, ask this simple question. How is it possible? How is it possible for 7 billion people, sentient beings, to all say they want the same thing? Health, peace, security, opportunity, prosperity, love. How is it possible for 7 billion of us to all claim we want the same thing and be unable to produce it, except for the tiniest number of us? Is it possible there's something we don't fully understand here? The understanding of which would change everything? How can humanity be where it is right now? And yet, as Barbara is pointing out over and over again, it's a blessing. The crisis we're facing is real, but the crisis we're facing is a blessing, because all true change emerges, as Barbara reminds us, from crisis. But that is not a guarantee that it's all going to turn out all right unless we play our part. So I join Barbara in saluting you, in thanking you, in praising you, and also in encouraging you to know that that part goes far beyond what's happening in this conference. That when you go home, are you courageous enough to stand in your community and say, come on into my house, or invite me into yours, and I will talk to you one-on-one about who we are and what's really so. And that's what I want to share with you today, who you are and what's really so.
Neil, I want you to know that the way this got started is by Bob and Noel going around in their bus to every state in the Union and stopping and talking with people, all on their own, without even knowing the people at all, and getting invited to whatever they could get invited to. And we have examples in Bob and Noel of literally having, where's Bob? Yes. All the states in the Union. And the reason that this convergence particularly happened is when Bob and Noel agreed to do this, is they planted the seeds, and there's a lot of experience here in doing exactly what you say. We have not been just hanging out with each other. I want you to know that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
We have, and we know that that is extremely important. And I just want to say something in my own experience, Neil. You remember when you were writing this book, The Mother of Invention, and I gave you my journal writings, and you said they were the best thing I ever had done. And I started to reread my own inner scripture. And here is a really important insight, not only going home and talking to your neighbors, but actually creating an incorruptible communication system with your own inner scripture. Because it's so potent. And what I realized in rereading my own inner scripture for the course in Generation 1, I was reading it, and then I thought, this is by far the best thing I've ever done. Why is it that I've sort of hidden it? Not hidden it, but just not mentioned it. And I realized something, along with the neighbor and the coffee cooler and all of that, is the intimate communion of pioneering souls with those who share this particular frequency. And I happened to say to a small group I was with just 2 days ago, just before I left, I cannot do this alone anymore. And I can't do it by bringing it through and getting this higher guidance and sharing it with others. It has to do with, I think, what might have been like the foundation of the early Christian church. It has to, and it's not a church, but this is where I always am struggling for language, but a communion is the best word I could find for it. I call it the inner monastery for conscious evolution. It's a protected space of absolute intimacy, of anchoring the guidance that we already know, that is still fleeting. And in this 52 codes that we're going to use in Generation 1, one of the codes is create an incorruptible communication system with your own universal self, and at least one other. It's not enough to create the incorruptible communication system with yourself. unless you can resonate with one or two others. Now, that has to be intimate. That has to be protected. And it has to be resonant with the other, who then communicates that intimacy, because these higher frequencies, what I think of as radically new in my own life, is the full-scale incarnation of those higher frequencies as a whole person. If you think of the conversations with God, of course they were all to you, as well as to millions of others. And I have found an enormous challenge, because once I realized that universal self, it's like involution coming up with evolution. When the involution, I call it universal self, joins essential self. And local self is not acting up. Meaning local self has been at least trained enough to know it wants this union more than anything else on earth. It wants the union of what I'm, in this particular language, essential self, which feels to me like the soul's essential destiny on this earth, the soul's code, with the universal, which is a non-local universal presence beyond being localized, and yet somehow having some level of presence in relationship to the frequencies of our own essence. And when you say to that universal self, come in the whole way, which I'm saying now through reading my own journals, the discipline that requires of me. And I vowed to enter the discipline of becoming the universal human, with at least one other, if not hopefully more, such that the integration of all levels of being that have come through us in higher guidance and all sorts of way, the radical newness for me personally is whole-scale integration. And that's body, local self, essential self, whatever the higher frequencies, and then go all the way to the Godhood, however you see it. You know, and that incarnation coming in as a new norm, not as a guru or a special person, but as a radically new members of the new generation. So I just wanted to share that, particularly right here now with the people who've worked with me, is along with going out and sharing with everybody who will hear it for the first time, is integrating with your own self and at least one other in the deepest possible integration until you can feel the wholeness of it. And I actually believe as a new norm that could be considered radically new.
To put it mildly. To put it mildly.
And I would like, if we have a moment, to just get any kind of reflections on the radical newness of complete integration of all aspects, highest and all the way down and up and beyond. Does anybody else feel the impulse and experience of doing that?
I do. I'll just say it is going on. Everything you speak, I'm doing that. So where I'm from, it is going on. And so I think there's just a verification and an awareness that it's happening, because I do that everywhere I go. So if there's a verification that needs to be done, it's taking place right now. And I'm being that. And by listening to you, I know I am.
So sharing with each other the experience of it
Yes.
is a verification for everybody. And also we can give each other helpful hints.
Yeah, well, But-
Like, Barbara, have you noticed? Did you?
but can I share one example?
Yeah.
Neil came to my hometown in Pocatello, Idaho, which is close to where I live. Very few. And I was there. And he planted that seed clear back then. And now I'm doing that. And when he walked in the room, I felt that. And I go, wow, it's still going on. So he's doing that, and I'm doing that, and it just got verified. I don't know what else to say.
Well, that's good. You don't need to say anymore. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Linda. I just want to respond to both of you that my gift is a book about 7 chakra sisters that was written while I was taking the ACE course.
Mm-hmm.
And from integrating the truth of our energy and who we are and taking it out into the world, I have already gathered 12 people who are going to be in conversations of the century with you in my home as soon as I get more information about it. So, and 2 of them are here. So,
So
thank
there you are.
And here I am.
She's from Northwest Indiana.
Oh, Northwest Indiana.
Northwest
And I saw
Indiana.
you at South Bend when you had the Midwest Convergence, there's that word, for universal peace. And you were just beginning this process, and I sat in the big room and thought, this is fantastic, but what? And now it's so real, so thank you, thank you.
It's so real, and I'm really also speaking of the radical newness of the person who integrates it the whole way.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought I had. Until I read the Higher Guidance. Julie.
Barbara, I think you would be really delighted to experience what we did in this room for the last 36 hours, or more than that, 48, 72, whatever it's been, a lifetime. But because of that process, we came in at a higher octave.
Mm-hmm.
And went right to work and created such an incredible field of resonance that was so powerful. And there are so many amazing individuals that came here in their full universal selves, holding it, and it really showed. It was the place was amazing.
Oh, thank you. I wish I had been able to be here.
I would love to second that in the feeling of we all came so together so quickly that using the wisdom of your program and your program and your program and all the other programs that have helped grow us, that we've shifted from this idea of, hey, listen to these great new ideas, and they've changed. The great new ideas are now embodied in us in a way that we can move them forward. And that's what I felt happen here. I've been to a bunch of conferences, and this conference was different. This conference created a field that you're talking about, that sense of resonance that said, we're doing this now. We're not just home reading a book or wanting to go to a seminar and learn more. We're here.
Yes, we're here.
This is the most amazing gathering of evolutionary leaders from the field that Bob and I sampled on 48 states in Canada. And I do feel very humbled and honored that they honored their call to be here and create this with us.
Okay, but take one more, then I'll turn it over to my dear friend.
With Birth 2012, we made the announcement. We experienced the birth, and we had a global moment of oneness. It was experienced by all of us. And then we were like, where's the baby? Where's the baby?
Yeah.
Because somehow, even with all of our enlightenment, we're still looking outside ourselves for the baby. and what the universe, what the field, what the great mystery we're dancing with, let us all know is you are the new. You must be in balance to create a balanced world. You must have your house in order. And so we all went through our various changes of burnout and accidents and deaths in our family,
Yeah.
all kinds of challenges, and we saw that's the universe just pushing us into balance. And here we are, knowing that we are the baby. We are the new earth. We are creating it right now in this moment, how we show up. And the one other thing I wanted to share, in affirmation of Neil Donald Walsh, our wonderful sister, Isoja, came up with the bumper sticker. And it is, each one, reach one.
So Barbara,
good.
back here, Neil, thank you so much for your comments, because this weekend has been both heart resonance and holding hands and Om for us to refuel ourselves here. And it also has been all about taking the action back to those geographical places where we are. So thank you so much for the reinforcement of that. Barbara, I just wanted to give you a time check in the local world of this place of Sunrise Ranch and us, and the joy of you this evening and whatnot, and celebrating you and Humanities team. Dinner is at 6 o'clock above this room right here, and the program starts at 7:15. I know all of these people will stay here as long as the three of you will share with us, and but we give you whatever time that you need for
What are we supposed to do?
preparation.
When is the event?
Yeah, it's at 7:30.
Oh,
After
after dinner.
After
So
dinner.
dinner is
Oh.
at 6, and the
Oh.
program is at 7:15
So we're
is what
not-
they have on the door upstairs.
Oh, I see. So we don't have to do anything more while we're here until dinner. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay, I thought we were doing this here, whatever it was.
Right. Well, we certainly feel that way.
So anyway,
But-
then I just,
Yes,
I
but
don't need to
but
talk anymore now.
So the program this evening is in the big white dome across the street. It seats 400. There'll be a lot more in addition to these folks there, of course.
see.
And for those that want to eat dinner or need to eat dinner, it's served between 6 and 6:30 is when the serving line is available. And so any time you
Okay.
can spend with us is wonderful. But those are the realities of those times. Steve?
Can we hear from Steve, Barbara?
Oh, you should definitely hear from
Where
Steve.
can we get the each one, reach one bumper stickers?
She rode all the way from Chicago, Illinois on a train to come to this event this weekend.
I'll order 24 hours overnight.
And we'll be ordering those bumper stickers for you, Susan.
I have to work out all of the details.
I really want to encourage the whole audience that pays attention to what, this doesn't sound the way I want it to sound, but to the audience that pays attention to what I'm doing in the world, I want every one of them to get that bumper sticker, so please.
Just wow.
Would you please connect with me, and is it okay for me to ask her that?
Absolutely, absolutely.
We'll all take one. Yeah, I'll take one too.
There's 12.
Anybody who wants to connect with me, my email address is very easy. It's Neil at neildonaldwalsh.com, so you can't go wrong. If you know my name, you know my address. So if you send me your contact information, I want to order those bumper stickers by the ton.
Okay. You just did that light on the mountain.
I know. Oh, right. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for in the energy of this room when we walked in. It's so beautiful. So, I have to say, even without the words, that you used to describe the 2 or 3 days you've been together. We felt it. You know, I feel it now. Isn't oneness beautiful?
Absolutely.
Oneness is stunning. Well, we are here tonight, Humanities team is here tonight to celebrate Barbara and spiritual leadership. By the way, I should start with my oneness hand signal, huh?
Yeah.
Our bodies are separate, but as we know, there's only one presence. We are all one. Peter, thank you for that contribution to the world. I had the privilege of driving over here tonight with 2 of the spiritual leaders that we have honored over the years. We've only honored 6. Tonight will be our 6th, Barbara. But our very first was Neil Donald Walsh in 2005. And what you all have been talking about here is so just completely connected with this work that we're doing where we're announcing spiritual leaders. Because as we know, we're at this critical point in the world, this tipping point, this shift. And what's really necessary now are that spiritual leaders step forward and speak in their truth and in their authenticity and in their love and talk about midwifing and all of the kinds of things that we must do together for this shift to go into its fullness and to create this planet that we all envision, that we all feel now. But there is so much work to be done. The awakening is just beginning to happen amongst the people. Ken Wilber says we're at about 5%. I've seen other studies that say we're at about 2%. So we're somewhere between 2 and 5% of the world has awareness that we're all connected, that we're all one with God and each other in life. That percentage isn't high enough. We've got to drive that percentage higher. How do we do that? Well, before I speak to a couple of things, I want to say Barbara and Neil certainly speak to how we do that. Neil, with his Conversations with God books, his 9 books that are so amazing that speak about the God in me and in you, this loving God that would never judge in a million years. And of course, there's only heaven. And our job is just to expand our beliefs to where we can feel that. And this new cultural story that's so necessary and that we're invited to step into now. And then Barbara, who we're celebrating tonight, who's this incredible visionary and who can synthesize words to just speak to where we've come from, where we are now, where we're going to. And this process of midwifing this new humanity where we're so in touch with the God in me and in you and in the world around us. She has such a gift. And there is it's not popular, and you can't monetize very well spiritual leadership. There are much more lucrative things that Neil and Barbara could do. But they're not doing those things because they see where we're at, this crossroads that humanity is at, this opportunity that we have, this invitation that we can extend. And they're devoting their whole life to creating this transformation, this shift. And so we believe in Humanities team, we need to honor them and just say, job well done, and thank you. Thank you for devoting your life to this work that is so important. And also, we need to encourage others. We need to encourage others to step out in spiritual leadership. And here's the last couple things that I want to share. I love the talk here of, hey, we totally get it. You know, we know God's within. I am sacred. I am divine. I feel it. I am so in touch with it. Because this is what we're all being invited to do. And this is how we're going to go from the 2 to 5% to the 10 to 12% and to the shift and to the co-creation of the whole planet that we envision. And the first thing that we can do that every movement has done before us to create success. In India, they did it. In the civil rights movement in the South, they did it. In the feminine movement, they did it. In the gay, lesbian movement, they did it. It's this simple little thing where we step through our fears and we take our private conversations out in public. And not that we proselytize, but we speak authentically to the God in me and in you, the sacred that is in all of life, the divinity that is in the world around us. And we're not afraid to do that. And if we do that one simple little thing together, this shift will accelerate so fast. So that's one thing, is just taking this good energy in the room, this thing that we know with certainty, and just finding our own authentic expression for that and bringing that out in the world in words and in actions, because sometimes actions are even convey even more than words, and the two together, of course, are very powerful. The second thing is the wheel of co-creation, is getting in touch with the thing that we most resonate with and connecting with that. Because as we know, the organizations and institutions and processes and politics out in the world, it's all old world now, and it needs to change. We need new models. We need new models for education. We need new models for business. We need new models for politics. And so where we're inspired and we have some sense for what education can look like or politics can look like, where we connect with others and we start creating models for really living in oneness in these organizations and institutions. Wow, that can be so powerful. To start putting new world models out on the table in the middle of the room and talking about them and saying, that makes so much sense. Imagine if our democratic government here in the United States were to adopt this model. So this is the other thing we can do, and I want to just close and give this back to this amazing woman, Barbara Marks Hubbard. And by the way, you know, to walk into the room with these two, you know, two amazing, amazing people that I'm so grateful to call my brother and my sister. And Barbara, I love you so much. I got a lot more I'm going to say later tonight.
Oh. I do want to say one word about my delight in meeting the humanities team. These were about 30 people. They were global counselors, the global council from 30 countries, all of whom are coming at their own expense and who are in charge of whole countries. And the organizational structure that Steve has developed is the most brilliant I've ever seen, except for the Sisters of St. Joseph.
The Pope is glad you said that.
But, I mean, the sisters have done a really marvelous job of, every single person in that room was outstandingly strong, had come a great distance, including one man who was a paraplegic in his wheelchair. And they felt like they were divinely inspired to activate their whole countries. And they have chosen the wheel of co-creation, which they're calling the 12 spheres of life, to plant in all these countries and to discover the way in which people can put their models of what's working, whether it be locally or regionally or globally, into that wheel, so that humanity's team, and Neil and I were talking about, there's God coming in and there's self-evolution, and then there's social evolution. And social evolution needs to be synergistic. It needs to connect that which is creative. And that also works very fast when it starts to go, because it is all one system. So I just want you to know that it's the first time in my life in this movement that I've seen an organizational structure of leadership, of board, a different kind of board, of core groups, and of regional global counselors, and it has given me the inspiration that it is possible to have structure that can literally make the movement come alive. And that doesn't mean we all have to have exactly this same structure, but I'm going to learn from it and be part of it, and also learn from it so that those of us who are working in the more conscious evolution movement part of it can see the structure of evolutionary community, which is in total alignment with this community and with that community. But I just want to make a word about structure of self-organization for social evolution. And that we need to realize that when a genius of that order comes along, and it's able to have brought this into form, I want to recognize that as equally important to any self-evolution piece that any of us are doing. So thank you, Steve. I think I'm going to turn it back to you, Bob. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Steve. Wow. Part of what we wanted to do this weekend was when the call came to us from Sunrise Ranch that said, Humanities team is gracing Barbara with the Spirituality Award on May 27th. Why don't you call together some folks and get them energized and ready for Barbara to arrive and for the Humanities team to arrive?
Is that how this happened?
That is how this happened. They called us and said, we've got the space. They really have teamed with us here at Sunrise Ranch. They've been extremely generous to us in partnering with us to make this weekend possible. And we're ready to go break bread and go celebrate with you over in the Dome.
Okay.
Are we not?
Yes.
So,
Just one thing, could I just present this little heart to Barbara?
please.
Barbara, this was, very quickly, very quickly.
Yep.
Yeah, I will. This was on our sacred circle, we called it, all weekend. And I had brought it here to place on the sacred circle because I wanted to take our energy home. But I have our energy in my own heart. Aww. And you weren't here, so I'd really love to give this to you. And it just says, the heart, wellspring of inspiration, seat of the soul, home of love and courage and compassion, life's drum song. Aww. So thank you, Barbara, because
I will cherish it.
It's because of you that we're all here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara. Well, the practical is this. So dinner is at 6 o'clock upstairs. Someone asked me, will we have time to change clothes so we can celebrate with Barbara before the program? The answer is, depends on how fast you are. And the program starts over in the Dome across the street, which all of us have been here for the weekend know where that is. And at 7:15, we have a number of things that we're going to do tomorrow morning, informal, that we've all scheduled to accomplish. And what else am I missing, Noelle?
I just think you should introduce the co-creative team that put this together.
Yes, thank you, thank you. So for Barbara and Neil and Steve's benefit, absolutely, thank you so much. Linda Rosenthal, an ace and guide from Northwest Louisiana. Indiana.
Where in the world does it matter?
We're all local and we're all everywhere.
Part of the group of 12 people that will be in your
That's right. We're blessed to have her as a part of the co-creative team. She just launched this weekend her new book, The Seven Chakra Sisters, a parable that she's reading. Both of you have acknowledgments in the book, so.
Written here.
Do we have the book? Did you send it?
Yes, they're right here. This is the weekend, is the first weekend. Marcia McCartney is a unity minister and clown. And she blessed us, Barbara, when we had our Conception Day event in Florida, Central Florida, and our first trimester event in Florida. Marcia was one of the co-creators along with Noelle and I.
We're all of us today.
Where's your church?
And she birthed all of us.
Well, I've had them in Chicago and Florida. I'm a free agent now.
Her
I'm
ministry.
a universal church. I've got the universal church.
Ron and Victoria Friedman of the Vistar Foundation, they have been so helpful to all of us this weekend with their love, the structure of what they have in Circle Technology. They know how to do Circle Technology and have us in our hearts and have us respect one another and share with one another. Thank you so much, Ron and Victoria. This has been a true blessing. And Noelle?
Thank you, Bob. I just wanted to say that when you go over to the Dome, you're going to see our RV that traveled to all 48 states.
Oh.
We did 93 presentations. We put on over 20,000 miles. And Bob did all the driving. And he's a marvelous man. And we also went to Canada. And we did that all in less than 6 months.
Wow.
And the sign here and that sign there are what we put up in our presentations when we played your movie and that had conscious conversation afterwards. And so Barbara, for you, I'd even give you a tour. So the RV's over there.
Oh, I have to see that RV. Yeah, definitely.
Our hearts are full. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. You're invited